Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating story, one that's a mix of agriculture, economics, and history. On one side, we have the global chocolate industry. It is a staggering $130 billion behemoth that completely dictates global supply chains. But on the other side, we have this 4,000-year-old survival crop, the carob tree. It's a plant that produces pods that are naturally sweeter than sugar, requires absolutely zero processing, and has zero caffeine. Yet somehow it's been almost entirely forgotten by modern Western diets.
So what if I told you that a massive $130 billion industry could actually be replaced by this single forgotten tree? Let's jump right into this explainer and uncover exactly how this ancient crop was just systematically erased from modern consciousness. We're going to explore what the clinical data says about its health benefits, why it failed so spectacularly back in the 1970s, and why, driven by a very real modern climate crisis, the carob tree is suddenly making a huge comeback.
All right, let's start with Section 1, the secret E410 additive, hiding in plain sight.
Seriously, next time you open your fridge, I want you to check the ingredients on your ice cream or your cream cheese or even your salad dressings. You're very likely going to find a highly specific code on the back, E410, otherwise known to the food industry as locust bean gum. This additive is literally on billions of food labels every single year. But here's the crazy part. E410 is extracted purely from the seeds of the carob tree. The food industry goes to these incredible lengths to extract this gum just to use it as a thickener. But the rest of the fruit, the highly nutritious part that tastes remarkably similar to chocolate, the Western world just throws it away. Meanwhile, Mediterranean cultures, like Sicilian grandmothers and Cypriot villages, they've been cherishing and baking with this exact fruit for generations.
Now, you want to know what's really wild? It's how this discarded seed connects to something you would absolutely never expect: the global jewelry trade. Ancient Greek merchants figured out something truly remarkable about carob seeds. No matter the tree, no matter the generation, every single seed weighs almost exactly 0.2 grams. Because of that incredible consistency, the seed actually became the standard unit of measurement for wealth. The word carat, what we use today to weigh diamonds, it's derived directly from the Greek word karyoshin, which means little horn or carob seed. To this day, 1 carat equals exactly 200 milligrams. That is the exact weight of a carob seed. So quite literally, every single diamond ring on Earth carries the memory of this forgotten tree.
Moving right along to Section 2, History's Forgotten Sweetness and the Nutritional Proof.
Historically, this tree literally fed empires. The Romans planted carob groves everywhere. Early Christians called it St. John's bread, believing John the Baptist survived in the wilderness on carob pods, not insects. Even Spanish conquistadors brought it to the Americas. But let's look at what modern clinical science tells us today. In a 2024 analysis, volunteers with high cholesterol were given just 4 grams of carob fiber daily for a month. The results were amazing. Total cholesterol dropped by 17.8%. LDL, the bad cholesterol, dropped by 22.5%, and triglycerides fell by 16.3%. The source material points out that pharmaceutical companies spend billions trying to achieve these kinds of numbers. And here it is, coming from a simple, unpatented tree pod.
And here is the real kicker. Carob provides this incredible natural sweetness, but totally without the metabolic damage. When we look at glycemic index scores, pure sugar spikes right up at 100, and white bread hits 75. But carob powder? It scores an astonishingly low 15 to 25. Diabetics can actually consume it without those severe blood sugar spikes. Plus, it has zero caffeine and zero theobromine. That's the stimulant compound that makes chocolate really dangerous to dogs and keeps sensitive people wide awake at night.
Which brings us to Section 3, the 1970s chocolate trap, a marketing catastrophe.
So, you might be wondering, if this food is medically beneficial and historically significant, why do people cringe when they hear the word carob? Well, for that, we have to blame the American health food movement of the 1970s. Health food stores started pushing carob as a healthy chocolate substitute. They'd bake it into brownies and cookies and tell kids, hey, it's chocolate! But as our source perfectly captures, the child feels betrayed. The memory becomes trauma. Think about it. When a kid's brain is completely expecting the fat, sugar, and caffeine of a Hershey bar, and they get carob instead, that comparison is just designed to fail. No substitute is ever going to win when it's measured entirely against an original on the original's terms.
But honestly, what happens when we stop expecting it to be chocolate and just appreciate carob as its own distinct food? The true flavor profile is actually wonderful. It's warm and earthy, naturally sweet, with these really distinct notes of caramel, dried fruit, and hazelnut.
Mediterranean cultures, they never forgot this. Over in Cyprus, for example, villages make pasteli. It's this delicious confection of carob syrup and sesame seeds, and they bake carob bread. They don't pretend it's chocolate for a second, they just celebrate it for exactly what it is.
Let's pivot a bit to Section 4, the global cocoa collapse, a $130 billion crisis.
While carob was getting sidelined by terrible marketing, the global chocolate market just exploded, hitting $125 billion in 2024. But as the source data details, that massive industry is sitting on a highly fragile foundation. Our source lays out a really stark contrast here. Cocoa requires a super narrow band of tropical monocultures right around the equator, and it relies heavily on West African production. It demands these incredibly long supply chains, cold storage, and massive industrial processing. The reporting also notes that the fundamental economics of cheap cocoa have persistently relied on offshore labor practices that major companies have repeatedly failed to reform. Carob, on the other hand, it thrives in family orchards, it doesn't require any tropical forest clearing, and it can be processed locally with super basic equipment.
And man, did that fragile cocoa system hit a breaking point recently. In 2024, the industry faced a severe crisis. Cocoa prices rocketed to nearly $13,000 per ton. That is a 400% increase. Production plunged by 40% over just 2 years. A Harvard Institute study even found that 68% of the yield variation in places like Ghana was directly tied to climate extremes. Massive rainfall, immediately followed by severe droughts. Because of all this, companies have quietly turned to shrinkflation, basically giving you smaller candy bars, or substituting cheap vegetable fats to make up for the missing cocoa.
Enter Section 5, a climate-proof miracle crop, built for the future.
As the chocolate industry is just scrambling to deal with these structural, climate-driven shortages, food startups in Europe and North America are finally looking at carob with fresh eyes. Only this time, they aren't marketing it as fake chocolate. They're looking at it as a uniquely climate-resilient crop. The environmental math on this is absolutely mind-blowing. To produce just 1 kilogram of chocolate, it generates 34 kilograms of CO2 and requires over 17,000 liters of water once you factor in irrigation and supply chains. By contrast, carob is an absolute powerhouse. A mature carob tree actually sequesters about 50 kilograms of CO2 per year. That makes its carbon footprint approach zero or even go negative. And thanks to a really deep taproot, an established carob tree requires zero irrigation. It thrives purely on rainfall and even resists wildfires because of its thick, moisture-retaining bark.
And here is maybe the most empowering part of all this. You can actually grow this yourself. The source provides these really simple steps. You just need a warm climate, specifically USDA zones 9 through 11, basically anywhere citrus thrives. You'll want to source a grafted female tree because only the females produce the pods. For the first 3 years, water it deeply once a week, and after that, actually just stop entirely. The tree fixes its own nitrogen, it naturally resists pests, and it can live for a whole century, eventually giving you 200 to 400 pounds of incredibly sweet pods every single year.
Finally, we reach Section 6, the economics of erasure.
This whole thing brings up a really glaring paradox. If this tree is so phenomenally resilient, so healthy and practically grows itself, why has the total carob growing area across the Mediterranean shrunk by 65% in the 21st century? Well, the source presents a fascinating economic theory for this decline. What cannot be owned cannot be sold. What cannot be sold cannot be marketed. Just think about it for a second. Carob trees self-propagate. They require absolutely no proprietary chemical inputs, no annual seed purchases, no expensive pesticides. The argument here is that corporate agricultural systems simply ignore what they cannot patent or tightly control. There is just no major profit margin for a giant agrochemical company if a farmer plants a tree that totally takes care of itself for 100 years.
Which really leaves us with this final, vital question. If a crop can't be monopolized, can it even survive in a $130 billion global market? The cocoa supply chain is currently fracturing under the weight of climate change. And meanwhile, the humble carob tree just keeps growing, asking for nothing, yielding natural sweetness, and just waiting to be rediscovered. It really challenges us to think about who actually profits from the foods we're told to eat, and what incredible resources we might literally be ignoring right in our own backyards. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I hope it gave you plenty of food for thought.